Join the team.
Hey team, this is the McGuire review, and we are now ready for video 2 of our 3-part series for Awaken Realms, The Edge, Dawnfall. So let's lock in and get ready to go. Alright, so as you can see here, we do have all of the different factions out in front of us and an assortment of components that we've got here on the table. Now I will say, this isn't the entire amount of miniatures for each one of these factions. It is each individual sculpt for each faction, and that's what just, table space wise, I wanted to be able to show each one of the sculpts for each one of the factions so you can take a look at those. But there are more sculpts than this, trust me. There are definitely more here in our giant war chest box that we have for each one of these factions. So you will be getting more miniatures than this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of our various components that are here. That's going to be sheets, stickers, some of the chits, the board. We're going to take a deeper look at each one of these. We're going to take a look at the faction sheets that each player is going to get depending on what faction you're playing. And then we're going to bring the camera down, and Bear's going to help us get some close-up video work on all of the miniatures that we have here on the table. Bear, go ahead and load up the overhead video. You guys can take a look at that video and see just how everything looks on the table. Let's first get into the box. Now, this box is absolutely huge, and I feel like it's warranted to call this out because I even experienced some of this issue with the box. Now, I will say, and I'm not sure how exactly this played out, but this box is made of a decently thick cardboard, but I don't think it's thick enough for how big this game actually ended up being for the war chest and how heavy the game is in the box. What I have found is that because of the weight in this box and this cardboard not being really as thick as it probably should have been, I am getting some minor splitting on my corners, but it's only on the inside of the box, not on the outside, so it's not visible. And it is an easy fix if this does happen to you, and I will do this as well. So I don't really want to ding them for that. It's still a nice cardboard box, but could it have been a little thicker for the weight and the size of this game? It absolutely could have been. So when you get these splits on the corners, the best way to fix that is just to go ahead and get you some super glue. This is how I do it. Sorry, Smucky. I'll go ahead and get you some... Sorry there, buddy. Just get you some super glue, and from the inside of the box, you want to hold that corner together and just super glue that, get it all in, push it together, and then super glue the back. Hold it for 30 seconds or so it's nice, good, and tight, and then let that sit and let it dry. Then what you're going to want to do is get some clear packing tape. This is what I like to do, just an extra reinforcement, and I'll do this for the inside of this box just to make sure there are no more cracks that happen. And just get you some clear packing tape and put it there in the corners of each one of the boxes to reinforce and hold that box more secure. You can also reinforce with thin pieces of cardboard as well if you want to do that. I like to use the clear packing tape because, again, that sticks and it kind of holds that corner together nice and tight. And then on the outside edge, to cover up anything that might have torn, just kind of take your fingers and push that together and get yourself either a brown or a black Sharpie and very lightly just kind of dust that corner. And it'll fill in. Most boxes use a darker color on the corners anyway, and it won't even be like it's there anymore. It completely disappear. It's a very easy thing to fix, but I thought I'd call that out because I know some folks are experiencing that, and I did as well. I wanted to be honest about that, but at the same time, it's an easy fix, and I want to let you know how you can fix it. And I have lots of boxes I've fixed that way, and you never would be able to tell that it was ever an issue. Okay, so let's first take a look at some of the components that we have. Let's grab this one here, one of my favorite factions, the Reborn faction sheet. Let's take a look at this from a component perspective. Now, there is a ton of information, and I'm hitting everything that's in front of me. There's just so many awesome miniatures. So there's a ton of stuff that's on the sheet that you'll see. Everything from some flavor text around that faction's backstory, just some things you'll want to pay attention to as you're playing that faction. So it has the Reborn Tactical Guide. Each one of those have that. And again, it's just some things you're really going to be wanting to watch as a player when you start to play. And remember, because every faction plays out very differently. Okay, and then we've got here some pre-construction starting decks. So this is what you're going to start with pre-construction wise until you get to the point of custom builds. It's going to have a little bit of information here about various areas of the board that's going to be beneficial to you. And then you're going to have your faction tokens and what each one of those do. We'll take a look at those. I do have those out for the Reborn and here in just a minute. And then all of the squad cards that are available, that would be in your deck. And you'll see each faction does come with a sizable deck. All of those squad cards for the various different miniatures that you would have, they'll be right here and they'll show you what each one does. There's some more text on the side. And then on the back, there's a number of cards that you're going to find in this deck and what each one of those cards do. So you got all of that information right there for you as a player at all times. You got the detailed rules, various different things, blocked, X space traveled in a straight line, sacrifice model, so different things you might want to do. Those details and those rules are going to be right here on the sheet. This is an awesome character reference sheet for these factions. I haven't seen a game that I've looked at yet that has done something similar to this. Lots of companies do the player reference sheets, but I haven't seen them do something like this before. So this is actually really cool, and it's really helpful when you're playing, and we'll see how helpful that is in the next video, video 3 of the 3-part series, where we get into the gameplay and the mechanics of this game. That's going to be an awesome one, guys. I cannot wait to do that video. That's going to be coming after Gen Con. We'll have to figure out which factions to use. Actually, if you see this part of the video, hopefully that you do, why don't you put down in the comments below which factions you'd want to see. So maybe I use just 2 of them. I don't know. Possibly I could use 3. We'll see how complex that gets. But why don't you put down below which factions you guys want to see the most, and those are the factions that I'll use for the gameplay video. All right, so I'll just take a little count based on what's below in the comments. All right, so this is the character sheet. One thing I will call out here, they could have possibly made this in more of the stiffer sort of cardboard that's used for boards. Possibly, I don't know if maybe that would be. Maybe you would get some warping with that, and that's why they went with more of the paper form. This is a much thicker piece of... It isn't just a piece of paper. It's got some weight to it. It's not super thick by any means. You can see there about, right? It's not super thick by any means. And one thing that I'm worried about with this is going to be something that's generally always going to be out on the table. You're going to be touching it a lot. You're going to be using it a lot. I could see this getting creases. I could see this getting, oily fingers all over it over time. I don't know. Could it potentially get ripped if someone grabs it and flicks it over too hard? They're looking at something. They got their hand on it. They accidentally rip this thing. That would be horrible. Just because this is something that is going to be probably heavily used as you're playing the game, I'm probably going to run to Staples or somewhere like that and get each one of these mats laminated. So it'd be perfectly protected, and I won't ever have to worry about that. So I'm going to get my character sheets laminated, just to ensure the protection of those. Okay, so let's take a look here at the actual chits that are in the game. Now each faction is going to have one of these sheets that's going to be included. We'll just pop a couple of these out. We'll just pop a few more of these out here, and we can take a look at these. Let's get a square one. All right. And that'd be good for our example. So in looking at these chits, they are nice and thick. You can see that there. They all follow the same thickness, obviously, being here in the punch board. But they are nice and thick. I cannot bend that, and I'm putting quite a bit of pressure against it. There's no strain whatsoever on the chit. These are good. These chits are really, really nice. Okay? They're good and thick. They look good. The artwork looks good on them. The color and the clarity looks good on them. Yeah, these look nice. All right, so I'm happy with these chits. The quality that those came out, they're good and thick. That's good. All right, let's go to these pieces here. Now, this is a tracker board that goes, Roman numerals as we play through that game. This is going to follow, I believe, the same thickness. Yes, it is the same thickness. It might be just a hair more thick than the chits, just a little bit, but it's very, very close. So these are nice, thick components. You're not going to have any problems with those at all. Let's look at the board. We saw the board in the first video in the unboxing. The board is actually a really nice thickness as well. And I will say, this may be, it's probably your standard thickness of a board. They may have gone a little thicker. I'm not sure. It does feel like it's pretty stiff, and that may just be because it's a 6-fold and it is a bigger board, and those sometimes have some problems with warping. I haven't had any problems with warping with this board, and you can see that in just looking at the video. This is still completely perfectly straight all the way around. There's no warping, there's no peeling. Sometimes with these boards, if they start to take on moisture or have problems with warping, you'll start to see some of those edges, they'll just kind of peel off. And if you look at it straight on, you can see this has got no warping issues. Okay, so that's good. So the board is good. Good with the board. Let's put these things right over here. Actually, we'll move them here in a second because I need to get to my faction sheets again. All right, these papers here are going to be used as you play through the game. Now, the one thing that I will mention about these papers, and I'm not sure why. Maybe we'll see as we play the game out more, but I'm going to see about how possibly of protecting these as well. These are extremely paper thin. Okay, these are going to rip very easily. They're going to get torn very easily. They're extremely thin. So I may look into ways of potentially protecting these a little better as well. But we'll have to see. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about these once we get to the gameplay video, just to see what I've come up with and to see if it really is a problem. I don't know. These sheets down here, when you get into the actual the larger maps, these feel like they're a little bit weightier. They're a little bit weightier than what these feel like. I don't know. I could be wrong. It's pretty close. But the single map sheets that kind of come in this sepia color, which they look fantastic. I mean, they look really cool. I'm just a little worried about potential rippage there. But again, third video, we're going to talk more about these and actually using them in play and see how they hold up and see how that works. There is a little piece of cardboard that's included with the comes in the box. I don't know if I showed that on the unboxing video, and that's just kind of a backer for that. You can also use that cardboard as you're playing. Put that down and put one of these sheets on top of it, so you don't accidentally poke something through the sheet or whatever, depending on what kind of surface you're playing on. If you get playing on a padded felt surface, I don't know, if you push hard enough on it, you might pop a hole through it. So I would use that little piece of cardboard. If you're just using a single sheet, you can set it right on that piece of cardboard. All right, let's get into the stickers. Now, with the stickers, those I have found are a good sticker. So what I did here is on one of these stickers, we can just kind of peel a little bit off here, and I can see that it's sticky, but it's not overly sticky. It's not like it's got a ton of glue on the back of it. I would say that once these stick, they're probably going to be stuck. Although, I mean, we'll have to do some testing to see. Now they do peel off, they do peel back off, but if you're going to want to peel these back off for any reason, and again, once we get into the play a little bit more, we'll see if that would ever be something we would do. I don't think it is as a player. If you did need to peel those off, you're just going to want to not push them on really hard. But I will say that the sticker is a good high quality sticker, and that's something that we wanted to make sure was definitely the case. Nothing like playing these games where you take stickers off, you put the stickers on boards, and then within a day, those stickers curl up and start falling off because it's just not a good quality sticker. These are high quality stickers from what I've seen, and I don't think we're going to have any problems with these stickers whatsoever. All right, let's hit the quality of the rule book. Now, rule book is a fairly thin rule book as well. Not a lot of pages here. Each page is pretty thin, which is fine. I mean, it's just kind of your standard on the rule book. I will say, looks really good. It's spaced well. There's a lot of good color, images, and examples on what's going on in the book. There is a lot of text, though, you can see. The text is fairly small, and there's a lot there to go through. Now, the book is not too long, but there is quite a bit of text, and it's small. And they could have went with a smaller style book that was, 40, 50 pages thick, and it feels daunting having to go through all of that. This isn't too long. The whole book, front to back, is 15 pages, and that's including the rules summary in the back. So this is going to be a pretty quick read to be able to go through this, and you'll be up and running before you know it. So that's a good design, especially when I see a game like this that has kind of the epic scale that this game has. Okay, to name off our factions before we bring the camera down, up front we do have the Darkness expansion, and again, it's not all the miniatures that are in here, it's each one of the individual sculpts. We then have the theMCGuiRE right here, which is a really cool faction. It's got kind of that dwarven mountain type feel, kind of that steampunk where you've got various different machinery that's hooked to the different units. This is a really cool faction. We then move on to the Razak faction that's right here, which is kind of, you know, sort of a angelic, but yet it's a mechanical, like a robot type faction, and they have robot type like features, which is really neat. Then we've got the more of the earthen kind of reborn faction that's right here. We move on, and we've got the Faceless, which these two here are probably more of a little bit of the darker factions. The Faceless has got, it's more, you know, they got spikes, zombie kind of looking. They got some robotic mechanical add-ons and various different things they have on their sculpts. Really, really cool looking. But this is the Faceless. We then go on here to the Demon faction. This is truly a demon faction. And it does have quite a few dark-like characters. They do have a really cool main character here. Pretty awesome. Again, we'll get down on the table close and take a look at him. He's pretty sweet. This giant, you know, mallet slash staff that he has here with the double skulls on either side is really cool looking. And then our final faction, which is called the Chapter faction. And this one is a favorite of mine as well. It's got kind of that angelic feel to it, but yet the wings have sort of a mechanical look to them. It's got a lot of different paladin type looking characters that are here with shields and swords and armor, and it does have the Purge Doctor, which is one of my favorite sculpts in the game, as well as one of my favorite character cards in Siege Storm. But the old Purge Doctor is alive and well in the Edge, and this sculpt is really, really cool. I love how this is set up. You've got the flamethrower. It's got mechanical claws here at the bottom, and then as well as these sort of shields that are on this mechanical device that can probably move those around and shield the Purge Doctor as necessary. So that's really, really awesome sculpt. Then we have a couple extra little bits that were included with the Kickstarter here, different flags and things that you can place around the board, tokens and markers. We've got a little bag of blue crystals. Those look good. I mean, it's just pretty much your standard blue crystal. You have the wood shields, and these look really good. And I'll say that they are painted with a gray paint. It's a wood paint with a gray paint, but it's done in a way where you can still see a little of the wood grain on the shield. So I really liked how this component turned out. You do have 2 dice. We'll get those out of the bag. All right. Both of those look really good. They're that, you know, very smooth, shiny plastic die with the rounded edges on them. Everything looks really good. The cuts look good. The paint's deep, nice down into each one of the numbers. I don't have any problems with these 2 die, and I looked at the other ones that are still in the box. All of mine look really good. No paint issues whatsoever. They've got good weight, good sound, all right? So I really like these dice. And I think now we've hit everything, so let's go ahead and bring the camera in. And Bear's going to help us go through each one of the sculpts within these factions. You'll be able to see everything, and we'll also name each one of these factions. So each one of these sculpts within the factions does have a specific name. We'll go over that as well, so you can see that, and we'll also go over some of the cards you're going to find in these factions decks. All right, let's get the camera, bring it down. Okay, now we're going to come down here on theMCGuiRE. That's where we're going to start. So let's go ahead and look at our deck here. We'll turn this around. All right. And we're going to look at each one of these sculpts here. So the first one that we have is our Avenger. And that is the big guy here that we've got. And you'll see this sculpt here. Now, I will say, and you'll experience this in some of these larger sculpts that do have some of the weapons. You'll see here that are on more of these thinner type sticks or handles. Some of them were bent just in packaging and shipping. Again, this can be easily fixed. You see this in lots and lots of games. It's a very common standard thing. You just dip that in some really hot water, get it hot, straighten it up, dip it in some ice cold water, and it's fixed forever, okay? So I'll be doing that. I do have a few sculpts that are hit by that issue, so I will be fixing that, but you can see here the Avenger, how cool that sculpt is. You could just imagine with all this detail work of the mechanics, how cool this would look if it was actually, based and just simply washed with the pipes there on the back. Super cool. All right, that's our Avenger. We are then going to go to the Gyrobot, which is this one right here, and this is a really cool sculpt. You can see that this guy's sort of in this machine, and it's clear that through the course of battle, this figure has lost their lower half, or their legs, and this is basically their legs in this sculpt. This is a very, very cool sculpt. It almost looks like the feet are designed much like hands, so they'll be able to use those like hands. Look how good this sculpting looks here on the wood, where that does really give you that feel of wood on the sculpt with metal. It's all putting together. Look, some of those pistons and gears on the back. It's got these pipes coming off. This one's a very, very cool sculpt. This is another one of my favorites in the game. It looks really good. You can see all the detail. It goes all the way down on these sculpts. It really does. Look at that. The gear work that is even under the sculpt. And that's how you know it's a good quality, well-made sculpt, when that sculpting goes well into the sculpt and even up under the sculpt. All right, Gyrobot. We're now going to the Unbroken, which is a shielded type character, and you see that right here. This one's really cool too. It's got that little face right up front. It's kind of a unique look. And then more of a masked kind of face there. So that's kind of a unique sculpt, where this is masked and then there's a face there. And then there's dual round shields, which I thought that was a good look to go with those round shields on this particular sculpt. And then some tanks on the back there. All right. We'll now hit another version of the Unbroken. So there's two different types of that. And you'll see this one looks very similar, but the shields are a little bit different. So this version of the Unbroken has more of a kind of a elongated square shield. And what's cool about this type of shield is this is a giant, like a shielding shield or a barricade shield. You can see how this cutout is right here, and then there's a circular cutout there. These two shields actually slap together in front of the model, and then they can shield themselves when they go into battle, which that's pretty cool. Okay, then we've got the Unkindred. So we'll grab this one, and here is that sculpt. It's got sort of a pickaxe and then a standard, kind of a standard looking axe. That's very cool. Flip that one around. It's got those tanks again on the back, and then there's sort of these kind of what looks like horns or something that's attached to that shoulder pad. That's pretty cool looking. All right, and then some nice metallic armor that's on that sculpt. And then the last one we have is called the Flame Keeper. And this is a pretty cool sculpt. You'll see it's got this giant flame gun here. And look at the front sculpting of that, how cool that looks. Now that would look phenomenal painted up. And you could do some red and some orange work on the inside of that, really make it look like it's about ready to spew out lava or something. I don't know. This is just a really cool sculpt here. I like how there's, and then on the back, we've got, I thought that was a gun at first, but it's not. It's a part of the piping or the tubing that's coming off kind of the back area there. And then the helmet is something that's really unique as well. It's a really bulky, metallic, like a cast iron look almost type helmet that this character is wearing. I just think this is a really cool little sculpt. I mean, it's fairly simple when you look at the actual base sculpting of just the body and some of the stuff that's on the body in comparison to, what we've seen already. But this gun, and I'm glad they did that, has just got some awesome work on it. That flamethrower. Okay, so that is the theMCGuiRE, and I do want to take a look quickly at some of the cards that are in this deck. So if we flip these over, we'll come over here and look at these. And these are some of the cards you're going to have that are in the deck that you can play. And I don't have these shuffled, so we're going to see some duplicates here. So reclaimed crystals. And you can see each one, how it's got the nice artwork on there, and they are different. So if you move these and you get to a different card, you do have different artwork on that card. Now, you will have the same symbol up here, which is just indicating that they're all for, that same faction. But it's really cool to see how they change the artwork on each one of these cards. And we'll look at a few more of them. We'll see how there's different cards for different, sculpts or characters in the game. And you'll see those there. So that's what those cards are going to look like. And that's going to be the same for each one of these factions. And then what we were taking a look at here earlier were the cards as we were going through each one of those sculpts. Each sculpt does have its own card, and they are double-sided. Got the active mode and the basic mode. But you can see that each one of these cards have some information there for that particular sculpt. It's got the artwork, it's got the name, it's all right there. So we'll take a look at each one of these as we go forward. Okay, moving right along, we're going to do the Razak next. So we'll get those cards right off the top here, and we'll put them down. And the first thing we're going to look at is going to be the Infinity Angel. And that's going to be our big sculpt. Every one of these factions does come with one kind of main larger sculpt. So here we got our Infinity Angel. That looks really cool. So you can see that there. That's a really cool look there. It's holding kind of those dual electrified prods of some sort. There's 4 arms on this one. That's neat. Got a shield and a sword in the other two, and then some mechanical wings. All right, and I like the way that these wings are sculpted. You'll see there's kind of a double sculpting there, where they could have just made this one flat piece, but you can see there that it's got it's got like 2 layers that are sculpted in all the way through those wings. That's going to look phenomenal when those are washed, because all of that shading is going to fall down in that crack, and it's really going to make each one of these higher pieces on that sculpt really, really pop, especially if you put some blue or some white in those. It's going to make them pop really good. So that's an awesome sculpt. Let's go here. The next one is going to be the Source Blade, which is a really cool looking figure. I'm going to say this kind of looks like the somewhat like the robot from the Power Rangers. One of the Power Rangers, they have a robot that stays in the kind of the main command center that looks something similar to this. This is more of a female version, but this looks really cool. I really like this one. This is very neat. All right, it's kind of got that, holding that backwards there. Got some gears on the back. That's a very cool sculpt. All right, we'll move on to the next, which is the Stream Surfer. So we'll grab that one. Okay, so you can see the Stream Surfer. He's kind of Silver Surfer style surfing on this piece of what looks like a metallic board of some sort, some kind of futuristic chip. I don't know. And it's got the electricity sort of all around it. And what's cool about that is he's actually holding, you can see there, he's holding like some type of baton that has that electricity sort of jetting off of it and around. And then his arm is gone. Is that normal? Where's his arm? This guy, actually, his arm is missing. I'm assuming that's in the box. I just didn't see that when I pulled it out. But it does look like his arm is missing, so I'm going to have to glue that back on. Again, not a big deal. There's just a peg, and that can be glued back on. So that is the Stream Surfer. All right, the next one we're going to take a look at here is the Stormbringer. So we'll put that down, and that is going to be this one right here. We're going to get this. That's the Stormbringer. That's pretty cool. It's almost like he's using his hands to conjure up. Or no, he is holding some form of a... I guess he's holding some form of something. Some type of... I don't know if that's supposed to be a gun or if that's just him charging up some electricity and firing it out. But regardless, it looks pretty cool. Do you like the helmet on that? And then it's got a really nicely detailed backpack here with some venting. So that's a pretty cool little sculpt. And the last one, well, a couple more here. The Steam Guard. So that's going to be this one right here. And that's pretty cool. Whoop. This one's pretty cool. See here. It's holding two what looks like energized blades. Those are pretty awesome. We've got what looks to be, is that like a mallet that's hanging off the side, or is it just part of his... That may be another weapon that's supposed to be hanging. It looks like it might be. That's hanging off the side there. We've got some turret-type style guns that are up on the shoulder. Nice backpack that's similar to what we saw the model here a second ago. Some crazy-looking legs. So he looks like a jumper. All right, and then we do have another type of Steam Guard that's available. Looks like this here, where that sculpt is going to be down on the ground, like jolting out some what looks like electricity, kind of pounding the ground and jolting that out. So that's pretty cool looking as well. I like that. I like the energy and the sculpt on that one. That's pretty neat. All right, that is the Razak faction, and we saw all the cards that come with it as far as the sculpt cards. Now, I'm not going to show the actual play cards of each one of these factions. They're all going to be very similar to what we saw there with our Devargar, the first one that we looked at. So let's go ahead and move on to the Reborn faction, which is one of my favorites. Again, I've mentioned that multiple times. So we'll go ahead and grab those cards, put them out in front of us here. And we're going to start with the Oracle of Wrath. Man, that's some cool artwork. All right, so that is the main one that's in this faction. You'll see that here. We'll start right down at the bottom. You'll see it's got some really nice sculpting. It's almost like some roots that are coming out, or a tree. And then it just slowly kind of sculpts in to, you know, a human type form. You can see how that foot sort of wraps back around in there. That's pretty awesome. And then comes up around this way, again sculpting all the way around this. And then really cool, I like how they covered the eyes there and sort of went with that cloaked type. The horns look really cool. And then if you look at the hands, they sort of morph back into somewhat of a tree as well. Has like kind of a bark skin look on that particular arm. This arm's just more of the human form. So that was a neat way to kind of go about this sculpt. And then the back, the wings are made looking like those tree branches and those roots. This will look phenomenal painted. Let's go to the next one here. We've got the Blightsteed, which is another very cool sculpt. We saw a little bit of this one in the first video. We'll see that this sculpt is on a what looks to be kind of like a buffalo. And it's got some various different types of like armor around it. Actually, maybe that's even part of the beast, sort of some bones almost kind of sticking out of the side of the flesh. And then it looks like more of a human type character that's riding it. It's got a kind of a mask on. You can see there, and then a really cool looking, somewhat of an elvish type blade. Really nice. Okay, we now have the War Beast, somewhat of a werewolf type looking character. Follows that same look where that right arm kind of comes off and becomes somewhat of a, almost like a bark skin look to it. And it's got kind of some spikes there that go down the back with the tail. So we can see that there. That looks pretty cool. All right. And now we're going to go to the worm. It's more of a basic type looking sculpt. It's very small. You can see that here. Just a simple, small little sculpt, but it's got some great deep sculpting in it that's going to paint up and look really nice. The wash on this would look really, really good. Okay. We do then have the tree made, and I believe there's two, nope, there's two different sculpts for that tree made. They're right here. So we've got this one here. Holding like some form of a dagger. And then we have this one here. Again, sort of pulling that dagger, if I can keep it in my hands, pulling that dagger kind of back from behind her. And this one here has got some really cool like ivy that wraps all the way around. And you can even see that in the sculpting, there's actually leaves and whatnot that's on that vine. So this is a really, really well done sculpt. The hair looks really good on both of these. It's got some nice deep cuts. And then the Ancient Guard is going to be our last one for the Reborn faction. Standing, this one's nice. It's got kind of a base that comes with it where it's standing on this rock. It's got some tree work. Looks like some stone almost that comes all the way up. This one's got a lot of sculpting on it. Okay, and I will say for this particular faction, which I thought was pretty cool, all of the sculpts are female for the Reborn faction, except for this War Beast here. I assume this is a male werewolf-like type creature, but every other sculpt as part of this faction is a female sculpt. So I thought that was pretty neat. You'll find kind of a mix in some of the other ones. You'll find that it looks more male in some of them, but this here it looks to be more of a pure female sculpt faction. So this is, I thought that was another thing that was really cool. We'll move on now to the Faceless. So we'll get our cards for each one of those, put them out front here, and we're going to start with the Shatterer. See him there. And this one's really cool because if you actually get in on this sculpt, he's kind of ripped open almost, held together by some pieces of metal bracing, and then there's another guy that's sort of a little guy almost kind of inside of that larger it's not, I don't know, I mean, I guess you could say it's mechanical. You can see the mechanical parts there, but it's almost like there's still some muscle that's wrapped in and some ribs that's wrapped in with that. Having that mechanically clawed hand, really cool. This just giant sort of spike coming off of this side. This guy looks deadly. I mean, he's just brutal. All right. That is the Shatterer. He earned that name. Okay, Flesh Ripper. That's got kind of the that Spider-Man look from the new Avengers. Got that. It's got that Spidey pack there on the back. That's pretty cool. And this is neat here. Off of this hand, there's like this blade that jets off. It's got some chains hanging down there. And this one again has a nice little rock base that it's standing on. That's the Flesh Ripper. We'll then go to what's called the Berserker. And that one is right here. And there are, I believe, a few. Yeah, there are. So there's 2 different types of Berserker styles. So we'll get those out here just so we can see those. Actually, there's 4 different styles of Berserkers. No, I'm sorry. There's 2 different styles of Berserkers, and then there's a Blade Breeder. So let's look at our Berserkers first, which is going to be this one here. And these kind of have the dual blades. That's pretty cool looking. And then we have another one here that's got kind of the blades out, some larger blades. And those look like almost sculpted right into, it's almost like they lost those limbs and then these blades were just attached. That's pretty neat. Okay. And then we have the Blade Breeders. There's 2 sculpts for those. Here's the first one here. And here's the last one. And then the last sculpt that we have here for the Faceless is called the Harvester. Find that one right here. This is another one where it's kind of like a guy inside of a walking type robot. And this one looks really cool, especially his arm is like this saw blade. It just kind of hangs out of this. And then it's got like this single hoofed almost kind of leg, and then 2 giant hands, and this one's even holding something you can see there. So this is a pretty cool looking sculpt. It's fairly creative the way they did that. Pretty much just a piece together kind of looking thing. All right, and that's the Harvester. So that's all of our Faceless sculpts. So in looking at the Demon faction, we'll get our cards. First thing we're going to start with is going to be the Bloodsmith. Okay, so let's get our Bloodsmith out, and that's the big boy here. Another large base sculpt. This guy is really cool looking. I love this staff. It kind of has that Skeletor look to it. So that's done pretty well. Okay, that's the Bloodsmith. We'll move on to one of the Dark Scholars. Now the Dark Scholar has 2 different sculpts that are available for it. So we'll put both of these cards over here, and we'll pull out the Dark Scholars. So here's our first Dark Scholar, which I just can't hang on to. The darkness is causing it to slip out of my fingers. All right, let's go here to the Dark Scholar. You'll see this one's really cool, kind of holding this skull here in one hand, having this sort of like a death blade in the other hand. Really cool looking sculpt. Kind of that hunchback, sort of feathery type hair coming out the back. And then the other sculpt looks like this. And I don't know if it's supposed to have 2 horns or if that's just broke. Something else that I've just noticed is that there's a horn missing from this, and I'm not sure if the horn is supposed to be broken off looking like that, or if this may be another sculpt that got damaged in packaging, and that horn is in the box. I'll have to check the other sculpts, because again, there's multiple ones of these. More than likely, that other little horn is sitting in the box, and I'll just glue that back on. No big deal. But again, that is the second sculpt we've had here that has had a little bit of a problem. All easy things to fix though, so I'm not worried about it. All right, so let's go down through here. This is a really cool sculpt. I like the way this looks. It's kind of this bird / reptilian type look to these. All right, and then let's go for our Gorehound. There are two different versions of the Gorehound. We'll show those here. The artwork looks really cool for those guys. And here are the Gorehounds. That big mouth opened up, and then some nice spikes all the way down the back. And it's kind of like a dog-like creature. And then the other one we see here, a little bit different, a little bit more streamlined. Looks to be a little bit smaller, doesn't have the large spikes or the larger mouth, but still looks pretty deadly. Kind of some flesh exposed there. Those are the Gorehounds. And then we do have the Master of Elements. This is a skeletal type figure with 4 arms. This one's a pretty cool one as well. Kind of got some flames there around the skull. Simple sculpt, but I think I really like the look of that. A lot of nice sculpting in that cloak coming off the back of it. And I like the 4 arms. That was a good choice. And then the Son of Kyber, I believe is what it's called. That's right here. And you'll see this guy. He looks pretty brutal. Looks like he's got some things bolted to his arms with some spikes on them. He's got the hooves on the bottom. Crazy looking belt buckle. He's actually got quite a bit of sculpting on him. He looks really good. He's going to look nice washed, I can tell you that. He's got quite a bit of sculpting up on this upper half. Lots of deep cuts, which those washes will get into, and it'll really bring out all the detail. Okay, that looks really good. That's all of our demon faction, and now we're going to go into the chapter faction, and that will be the last faction. So we'll take a look at, first, the Angel of Death, which is our larger sculpt. This one, again, is on the larger base. This is a larger sculpt. It just sits on this rock. Pretty cool looking. And it's got this sickle-type weapon with teeth on it. That's really neat looking. It's got some, looks like it's made up of, it's got some mechanical parts to it. And then the face on this one looks like there's almost, you know, it's definitely robotic looking. Still human, but yet robotic. That's really cool the way that looks. You can see some of the synthetics that are inside of there in the neck and around the chin. The wings look great. I really like how they did this in the back with these gears and these chains and everything that go across with these gears to kind of mechanically operate those wings. That's a great sculpt. We're going to do the Holy Knight. He's got a mallet and a shield, and that's him right here. Let's take a look at him. I like the look of that big mallet. That's pretty cool. It's got all the armor on, just like the classic knight look. Classic, almost like a paladin type look. And look how cool that shield is. I love the look of that shield. All right, next one we're going to look at is another sculpt of a Holy Knight. It's more of a shield kind of blocking, and then has a longer pole type weapon. Again, going to have to dip that in some hot water. Got a little bendage there. We've got another sculpt for a Holy Knight, and that one's right here. It's got like a giant sword. That sword's pretty awesome. All the armor's gonna look the same, shields look the same. It's pretty much just different poses for these Holy Knights and different weapons. But I do like the posing on this one, kind of having that cloak sort of flowing down to the side, showing that movement. That's a nice sculpt. And then we have the Ranger. You can see there, the Ranger's pretty cool. It's got this mechanical bolt-operated crossbow type weapon. You see it's pretty bulky, so I'm sure that thing can do some damage. And then full mechanical legs, probably supporting the weight of whatever this is here. This crossbow weapon. Looks like it's got some mechanical parts on the arms as well, a little bit, but mainly those mechanical legs. Looks pretty awesome. You can see the detail of the sculpting again. I mean, look at it. It's all the way in on the face. Look how nice and tight that face looks. Sculpted in there very well, even deeply back into that hood. Okay, then we have the Pilgrim. See here. And this is more of a humanoid type character with a large, somewhat of a large staff with a big blade. It's almost like a saw blade on the end of that. Who knows, maybe it's mechanical and it's moving, or maybe it's just spikes. Or in some form of a backpack. And then the last, but not least, is our Purge Doctor. And if you do play Siege Storm, you know this character well. The Purge Doctor. And you'll see that here. Take a second here to look at this sculpt, because this one's done very, very well. So we got some rocks there on the bottom, these mechanical bird-like claw feet that look like they're just sort of right part of this sculpt. Then you go up. You do have the flamethrower there. That awesome looking helm or helmet. 2 shields. And then when you swing around the back, you can see the mechanics here that are holding those shields and allowing them to probably move independently to shield the Purge Doctor as he purges. Like the weathered look they put on the cloak here. This is such an awesome sculpt. All right. The last thing that we have here are the Darkness sculpts from the Darkness expansion. So we're going to start with this here, this character. Oh, that is awesome. I love the way they did the face on this one. Tons of detail on this sculpt. Here's a really delicate little... You can see almost like snakes coming up. That's crazy looking. Suspending, kind of holding up and suspending this sculpt. This is another really cool sculpt here. This one's got kind of some spidery type bone legs. It's kind of crazy looking. And it looks like it actually has some like bone spikes coming off the backs. Not really wings, just more of like bone spikes. Big salamander arm. All right. We've got this one here, another kind of suspension type sculpt. That's pretty unique. And then our final sculpt here, you see holding that bell. The bell done really well. High detail there on that. All that chaining. It's almost like it's like he's got a mini cemetery like on his back. That's really cool. How cool is that? All right. Okay, teams, that is all of the different sculpts that we have in the game. So let's bring the camera back up and wrap up video 2 of our 3-part series. All right, that takes us to the end of the second video in our 3-part series. We got a full look at all the miniatures that are included in the game, all the different little bits, everything that we're going to see. Now, there are a couple more things that were in. There's a couple more little things, 2 more little tiny things that were included. There's a few of those that were in a little bag, and they are right here. So I did want to show those. Those were actually in with the Darkness expansion. So those were, we didn't take a look at those up close on the table, but there are 2 more little bits just to make sure that we're accurate there, that we looked at everything that's in the box. And that's it. So you guys tell me what you think. I think the miniatures are pretty awesome. I like the variability that each one of the factions has. They all do have a very distinct and different look to them. Okay, so we are going to do one more giveaway on this video as well. So there's a giveaway that's going on the first video. We're giving away a copy of Siege Storm. You got to watch that first video. Make sure you're part of the team. You've hit that subscribe button. For this video, we're going to do the same thing. Bear, thank you. We are going to give away the Edge Dawnfall art book. We did take a look at this art book in the first video. It is full of high color, high quality artwork from the game. You can see there, really, really cool stuff. You know, these books are good for lots of things. You can just kind of look through the books, look at the artwork. Goes nice out on a coffee table or whatnot, or down in the game cave. Or, you know, I've seen folks, I've even done this myself with some of these types of art books, where you find a page that you really, really like. You can take an X-Acto knife of some sort and you can cut that page out and then you can frame it up. So if it's a piece of artwork that you really like from the game, you've got awesome artwork in this book that you can actually put and frame up if you wanted to. So we are going to be doing a giveaway. It's open worldwide. If you're not part of the team, hit that subscribe button, comment below. When the third video comes out, we are going to do a giveaway. Bear's going to hit the button of fate, and we're going to choose the winner from the first video, and we're going to choose the winner from this video here, and that's going to be the art book. So don't miss out on that. That's a pretty cool one, as well as the giveaway on the first video, which is a copy of Siege Storm, which is doing very successful on Kickstarter right now, and it's going to be coming to market here soon. So look forward to the third video in our three-part series where we're going to get into the gameplay and the mechanics of what we're going to see in The Edge. It's going to be coming to us soon after Gen Con, alright? So hit that like, click the subscribe below to join the team. Roll them crits. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time. Bear, let's go!